The modern world hums with an invisible tension. A low electric current running beneath the soft glow of everyday screens. Most people never feel it, never sense the silent conflict unfolding under their fingertips as they scroll social feeds or answer emails. But the digital realm is no longer just a network of wires and signals. It has become a battlefield, a cold, silent, ever-shifting front where nations clash without armies, where soldiers wear no uniforms, and where the deadliest weapons never need to be touched by human hands. This is the world of state-sponsored hacking groups that advance persistent threats. The APTs, the covert cyber units answering not to ideology or profit, but directly to governments. They are the unseen vanguards of modern geopolitics, a new type of intelligence service, a new type of spy, and a new type of threat. In the old era, intelligence operations required shadows alleys, disguises, forged passports, and whispered exchanges in dimly lit backrooms. But those days are relics compared to what governments can do now. And while Hollywood paints hackers as loners in basements, the truth is far more organized, far more structured, and far more alarming. State-sponsored groups operate like military units. They have ranks, resources, budgets, mission directives, and political objectives. They are commanded, protected, and deployed with precision. When they strike with efficiency and with plausible deniability that shields governments from any direct blame. And unlike traditional armies, these digital operatives never sleep. They don't retreat, they don't get captured, and their battleground is unlimited. Every nation with infrastructure, every hospital with a computer, every government office with network cables, every company storing sensitive data is a potential target, and every target has vulnerabilities, no matter how secure it believes it is. The most unsettling truth is that these app groups have been embedded in global systems for years, often unnoticed. Some infiltrations lasted months, others, shockingly, lasted years. Entire networks have been silently monitored, mapped, and dissected by foreign cyber units without the victims ever knowing. Imagine going about your life while someone quietly lives inside your walls, hearing everything, collecting everything. That is the scale of intrusion APT groups can achieve. To understand the rise of these silent digital armies, you need to understand the geopolitical shift that birthed them. The 21st century didn't just bring technology, it brought vulnerability. Nations digitized their power grids for efficiency. They connected their water systems, transportation hubs, defense communication networks, and financial infrastructures. The world embraced convenience, but convenience came with doors that could be opened from the outside. And while ordinary criminals sought profit, governments saw opportunity. Why risk soldiers' lives when war could be waged through code? Why send spies across borders when they could infiltrate from thousands of miles away? So governments began building cyber units, elite teams consisting of mathematicians, programmers, linguists, intelligence officers, and analysts. These were not random hackers, they were trained operatives equipped with cutting-edge tools, backed by the massive resources of nation-states. And when they were deployed, they weren't asked to steal credit cards or annoy users with ransomware. Many APT groups infiltrate networks not to attack immediately, but to wait. They map electrical systems. They identify kill switches inside dams and power plants. They find backdoors that allow them to shut down pipelines or disrupt transportation at a moment's notice. These operations are not only about intelligence, they're about leverage. They're about gathering the ability to cripple an adversary without firing a single bullet. Imagine the world as a giant chessboard. Nations place their pieces strategically. Armies, alliances, treaties, economic agreements. For decades, these were the tools of global competition. But now, there are new pieces that move unseen, pieces that can bypass borders entirely, pieces that can reach directly inside the heart of another nation's infrastructure. These are the APT groups, and unlike traditional chess, both sides can have pieces hidden behind the board. To truly grasp how these groups operate, you need to understand their mindset. Once inside, they study their environment like predators observing prey. They learn how the system communicates, how administrators behave, how security protocols rotate. They wait for the perfect moment to move laterally across the network, often disguising their actions as normal user behavior. APT groups are patient because patience yields deeper access, and deeper access yields more valuable intelligence. You have a sense of what an app group does accept in the digital world. Everything is faster, more complex, and infinitely more scalable. A single analyst sitting in a secure room could be watching a foreign intelligence network in real time. Another might be extracting classified military data. A third could be preparing malware custom designed for a specific target. It's espionage on a scale the world has never seen before. One of the most unsettling aspects of APT operations is how normal the digital battlefield appears. You could be reading an email, not knowing it was crafted by a foreign intelligence unit. You could be downloading a seemingly harmless file, unaware it contains custom-built malware tailored specifically to your organization. You could be browsing a website that has been compromised by a state-sponsored group to infect visitors from a specific region or agency. To APT groups, the internet is not a platform, it is territory. And this territory is fragmented into spheres of influence. Some APT groups focus on political operations targeting ministries, embassies, and foreign policy institutions. Others focus on military secrets, missile systems, troop movements, strategic research. Others specialize in economic espionage, siphoning off billions of dollars in intellectual property to strengthen domestic industries. And then there are the groups that specialize in disruption, groups that sabotage power grids, interfere with elections, or plant malware inside critical infrastructure. This is why the rise of APT groups marks a turning point in modern history. Cyber operations were once a side note, an auxiliary tool of intelligence agencies. Now, they are a primary weapon of statecraft. Nations prepare digital arsenals the way they once built nuclear stockpiles. And while nuclear weapons can devastate cities, cyber weapons can destabilize nations quietly, deniably, surgically. Consider the psychological impact alone. When a nation discovers an APT has infiltrated its network, the damage extends far beyond the data stolen. Trust collapses. Every system becomes suspect. Every login attempt becomes a potential intrusion. Every unexplained glitch becomes a possible attack. Nations begin to question the integrity of their own infrastructure. Cyber warfare doesn't just undermine security, it undermines confidence. This is why cybersecurity analysts often describe the digital age as an era of low-level, continuous conflict. Not open war, but constant probing, constant infiltration attempts, constant intelligence gathering. The difference between peace and conflict is now measured not by ceasefires, but by the frequency of detected intrusions. In fact, some app groups design their operations so carefully that the initial compromise appears as nothing more than a harmless event, a mislabeled email attachment, a minor network glitch, a single user login anomaly. But beneath these subtle signs lies a carefully orchestrated infiltration, often planned months in advance. As these groups evolve, so do their methods. They adapt to new security measures, exploit human weaknesses, and leverage geopolitical tensions to justify their missions. And because the battleground is global, they can strike from anywhere, at any time. APT operations can unfold at 3 a.m. in a target-S time zone while the group itself operates from a fortified compound halfway across the world. This distance creates an eerie paradox. The people executing these intrusions may never physically encounter the nations they target. They don't hear the languages spoken there. They don't walk the streets. They don't see the faces of the individuals whose lives might be affected by their actions. Everything is abstract. Everything is digital. Everything becomes data. And when a human life becomes data, it becomes easier to manipulate. The deeper you dive into the world of state-sponsored hacking groups, the more the boundaries begin to blur between patriotism and paranoia, between defense and aggression, between intelligence gathering and covert warfare. These operatives live in the space between those blurred lines. Their missions are not always clean, not always justified, and not always acknowledged. Yet they continue, driven by the conviction that the threats they guard against are too vast, too complex, too dangerous to be handled with traditional tools. And because their work is hidden behind classified walls, they operate without public scrutiny. Their success is uncelebrated, their mistakes concealed. This secrecy doesn't just protect them. It frees them to act with a kind of precision that borders on ruthlessness. Every app group forms its own signature, a recognizable fingerprint left unconsciously in the code they deploy, the infrastructure they reuse, the timing of their attacks, the linguistic clues buried in metadata. Analysts study these breadcrumbs obsessively, constructing digital dossiers on groups they may never identify physically. And although the public rarely hears about these digital fingerprints, within intelligence circles they hold the weight of real-world evidence. When a new breach surfaces, analysts examine the malware like detectives analyzing a crime scene. They examine the exploitation chain, the encryption methods, the command and control servers, even the internal structure of the malware's code. It's digital forensics, but with a twist. The perpetrator is often a nation-state that will never admit to anything. Some APT groups conceal their tracks with astonishing sophistication. They rewrite logs, mimic benign network traffic, and even deploy fake decoy malware to mislead investigators. Others intentionally leave subtle clues, misleading signals designed to point the blame toward another nation entirely. What appears to be a foreign intrusion may in truth be a carefully crafted false flag. The more you study these operations, the more deceptive the landscape becomes. Nothing can be taken at face value. Every result can be engineered. Every signature can be forged. In this world, trust is not a luxury. It is a liability. But the true power of these groups lies not only in what they do, but in how they think. Behind every attack is a strategic calculus, a government objective disguised as digital activity. APT groups are extensions of geopolitical intent. When tensions rise between nations, their cyber units become more active, more aggressive, more probing. Sometimes they deploy malware during peace times to silently observe. Other times they escalate operations to send political messages. In extreme cases, they perform destructive actions meant to destabilize systems and hint at the capabilities they possess. But the line is always walked carefully. A cyber attack must never be so bold that it forces open conflict. It must always stay beneath the threshold of war, pushing boundaries without breaking them entirely. It's this delicate balance that defines the ecosystem of modern cyber conflict. Every nation wants dominance without exposure, power without accountability, influence without consequences. Cyber warfare gives them that opportunity. With a few well-placed lines of code, they can alter political landscapes, undermine adversaries, and gather intelligence worth billions. And with skilled app groups carrying out these missions, governments rarely face any direct blame. Instead, they dismiss evidence as speculation, blame rogue actors, or deny involvement entirely. APT groups are the perfect geopolitical tools, not because they are invisible, but because they are unprovable. Inside the rooms where these operations are planned, the atmosphere is unlike anything found in conventional military environments. There are no marching formations, no field uniforms, no roaring engines or battle cries. Instead, the soundscape is a soft hum of computers, the quiet tapping of keys, the subtle murmur of analysts discussing vulnerabilities. The operators are not decorated soldiers, they are engineers, mathematicians, linguists, and intelligence officers. Some are young prodigies recruited straight out of universities, chosen for their ability to solve impossible problems. Others are seasoned intelligence veterans who understand the psychological warfare embedded in digital operations. Together, they form an ecosystem of talent that turns abstract code into real-world influence. The tools they use vary dramatically. Some app groups develop their own malware from scratch. Others modify publicly available code, hiding their creations behind layers of obfuscation. Some exploit zero-day vulnerabilities, those rare flaws unknown even to the developers who created the software. Obtaining a zero-day is like holding a master key to thousands of systems worldwide. But using one comes with a cost. The moment the attack is discovered, the vulnerability will be patched, eliminating its value forever. This creates an eerie tension inside app operations. Should they use the exploit now to achieve a strategic objective, or save it for the future when it may be needed more? Every decision carries weight. Every action burns resources that cannot easily be replaced. When apt operators finally launch an attack, it rarely looks dramatic at first. There are no explosions, no alarms, no dramatic confrontation. The intrusion often begins with something deceptively simple, a spear phishing email crafted with uncanny accuracy. It may reference internal projects, mimic a CEO's tone, or even use personal information scraped from years of social media data. To the victim, it seems harmless, routine even. And that's the genius of it. APT groups understand that the human element is almost always the weakest link in cybersecurity. People trust too easily, click too quickly, and assume too much. A single moment of carelessness is all a foreign intelligence unit needs to slip inside a network. Once inside, the operation shifts from infiltration to expansion. The attackers observe silently, mapping the digital terrain like a recon unit surveying enemy territory. They identify privileged accounts, sensitive databases, key executives, and critical servers. They extract credentials, escalate privileges, and move laterally through the network with the skill of master thieves. By the time the organization realizes something is wrong, if it ever does, the damage is already done. Sensitive data may have been exfiltrated weeks earlier. Backdoors may have been installed months ago, and the intruders may have already created hidden access points that allow them to re-enter the system even after the initial breach is closed. But not every operation ends at theft. Some infiltrations are preparatory. They are designed to embed long-term access so that in moments of geopolitical tension, the attacking nation can cripple infrastructure instantly. These sleeper operations are among the most disturbing aspects of APT capabilities. Imagine going about your life while an unseen adversary waits quietly inside your power grid, your government servers, your financial networks. Nothing happens until the moment it does. The idea that a foreign power could flip a digital switch and collapse key infrastructure is not science fiction. It is documented possibility. Analysts have discovered malware buried inside critical systems of multiple countries, dormant but positioned to cause catastrophic effects if activated. The existence of such implants is not just a threat. It is a reminder that the digital battlefield extends into every aspect of modern life. And yet, for all their sophistication, APT groups are locked in a constant arms race. Defenders evolve, threat hunters adapt, security researchers uncover clues. Nations build counterintelligence units specifically to track foreign cyber operatives. Threat intelligence firms publish reports exposing advanced malware, forcing APT groups to start over. Every discovery, every patch, every detection forces these units to refine their techniques, retreat temporarily, and design newer, stealthier methods. The battlefield is dynamic and relentless. No victory lasts forever. Still, the advantage often lies with the attackers. Defenders must protect every vulnerability. Attackers need only find one. APT groups exploit this asymmetry relentlessly. They probe networks continuously, searching for weaknesses, waiting for the perfect moment. Unlike conventional warfare, where soldiers require rest, cyber units operate in shifts around the clock, sustained by national intelligence budgets and geopolitical urgency. Their battleground is global. Their reach is unlimited. The deeper the investigation goes into the world of state-sponsored hacking groups, the more disturbing the revelations become. What began as silent digital espionage grows into a shadow conflict, where nations strike each other with surgical precision, rarely loud enough to provoke war, yet powerful enough to reshape global strategies. It's a battlefield that hides behind glowing computer screens, encrypted connections, and the quiet confidence of governments that have mastered the art of covert digital influence. By now it becomes clear that APT groups are not simply hackers, they are state weapons, built through years of training, ideological loyalty, and technological superiority. They are the ghosts that slip into systems without footsteps, the intruders who leave behind no fingerprints, the operatives who can change the course of events without ever being seen. And as the years progress, their methods evolve in ways the public never sees, and often never imagines. In the early days of global cyber conflict, attacks were primitive, often limited to simple data theft or basic network disruption. But today's APT campaigns are multi-layered operations involving intelligence officers, linguists, psychologists, data scientists, cyber engineers, and field operatives. Every step is calculated. Every objective ties into a larger national strategy. What might appear online as a random intrusion is often part of a deeper chain of events, a puzzle piece connected to political negotiations, military tensions, or long-term economic positioning. Some APT operations take months to develop, others unfold across years, running silently in the background, while governments use the extracted intelligence to shift alliances, anticipate threats, and manipulate outcomes. You begin to understand that modern geopolitics does not unfold solely in international meetings. military exercises, or diplomatic cables, and unfolds in code. APT groups don't just penetrate networks, they adapt to them. Once they infiltrate a system, they treat it like terrain, mapping its architecture, analyzing its behavior, studying the habits of its users. A compromised network becomes a living organism, one the attackers learn intimately. They observe peak usage hours, track administrator movements, intercept communications, and identify operational weaknesses. Some groups even replicate entire segments of a target network within their own secured environments to test new malware. This level of precision is closer to intelligence surveillance than hacking. It shows that these groups operate not with the mindset of criminals, but with the strategy and discipline of intelligence agencies. But for all their methodical brilliance, every app campaign carries an unspoken psychological element, a kind of silent intimidation. Targets often don't realize they've been infiltrated until long after the attackers have extracted everything of value. When analysts finally uncover the breach, what they discover is chilling. Months of activity, gigabytes of stolen data, carefully hidden backdoors, and digital traps designed to misdirect or frustrate investigators. In some cases, attackers deliberately leave behind traces of their presence. Not enough to identify them conclusively, but enough to remind the victim that they were inside, watching, collecting. This psychological edge is intentional. It creates uncertainty. It makes governments doubt their own security. It forces companies to question what else might be compromised. APT groups thrive on this doubt because uncertainty itself is a strategic advantage. What complicates the situation even further is the global nature of cyber conflict. Traditional warfare has borders, lines, checkpoints, and identifiable casualties. The digital battlefield has none of these. APT groups can move from continent to continent in seconds, shifting their operations across compromised servers located in dozens of countries. They use proxy chains, VPN nodes, botnets, and hijacked routers to hide their origins. By the time an attack is traced back to its command infrastructure, the servers are wiped, relocated, or abandoned. The attackers, long gone, are already operating elsewhere. This fluid mobility makes attribution, identifying the responsible party, a complex and uncertain science. Nations exploit this uncertainty, denying involvement while benefiting from the outcomes of their hidden operations. The world is full of attacks everyone knows are state-sponsored, yet no one can prove it with absolute certainty. This plausible deniability forms the backbone of modern cyber warfare. In some cases, APT operations intersect with real-world intelligence missions. Digital intrusions are paired with human agents, satellite surveillance, financial tracking, or diplomatic activities. These operations become hybrid campaigns where cyber units soften targets, collect intelligence, or manipulate systems to support field operations. Imagine a scenario where a physical asset needs access to a secure location. An APT group can disable cameras, manipulate access logs, or trigger technical errors that create openings for the operative. Conversely, human intelligence can feed cyber units with credentials, internal documents, or knowledge of system architecture that accelerates their infiltration. This collaboration between physical and digital assets creates a new form of espionage, one where the line between hacker and spy dissolves entirely. Yet even as APT groups refine their capabilities, defenders grow more advanced. Threat intelligence teams worldwide monitor suspicious traffic patterns, analyze malware signatures, and develop predictive models to detect intrusions before they unfold. Governments invest billions in cyber command units, creating defensive app-like teams capable of tracing attacks, neutralizing threats, and conducting counterintelligence operations. Sometimes these defensive units even hunt foreign APT operatives in real time, tracking their movements across networks, observing their techniques, and dismantling their infrastructure piece by piece. This quiet chase creates moments where highly trained operators on opposite ends of the world face each other in digital combat. There are no explosions, no dramatic visuals, only silent intrusion attempts met with silent resistance. each move countered by another, like a lethal game of chess played under absolute secrecy. The stakes in these confrontations are not always measured in stolen files or disabled servers. Sometimes they are geopolitical. APT operations have the potential to undermine international trust, provoke retaliation, or destabilize regions. A well-timed attack on a power grid during political tension could push nations toward confrontation. A strategically leaked cache of intelligence could destroy alliances, or frame a nation for crimes it never committed. APT groups hold the power to influence global narratives, manipulate public opinion, or sabotage critical systems. And as nations become more dependent on technology, the potential impact grows exponentially. But what is most unsettling is the idea that APT operations do not simply react to the present. They plan for the future. Many groups quietly infiltrate networks not for immediate action, but for long-term positioning. They map critical infrastructure, study emerging technologies, and prepare access points that may be exploited years later. These dormant implants form a silent arsenal hidden inside foreign systems, ready to activate if tensions escalate. Intelligence officials refer to these hidden access points as digital landmines, unseen, untouched, but catastrophically powerful if triggered. The more you uncover, the more the truth becomes undeniable. The world is already in a silent cyber Cold War. Nations battle constantly, not with tanks or missiles, but with code and intelligence. Every country has something it fears losing, and every rival has something to gain by stealing it. Whether it's political influence, technological advantage, military secrets, or economic leverage, APT groups exist because nations refuse to be vulnerable. They are the shields and the swords of the modern era, operating in a dark domain where morality becomes negotiable and consequences remain unseen. This is the reality of state-sponsored hacking in its purest form. A system where power is measured in access, dominance is achieved through infiltration, and the future is shaped by invisible hands manipulating digital landscapes. If the earlier parts revealed how these groups emerged, and evolved, this stage exposes the heart of their influence. A world where silence is a strategy, shadows are weapons, and the most decisive battles are fought in places the public will never see. As the world's most elite state-sponsored hacking groups continue evolving, the battlefield they operate in grows darker, more unpredictable, and infinitely more dangerous. Nations have come to accept the grim truth. The next global conflict might not begin with missiles, armies, or televised declarations. It may begin with a blackout, with a system failure, with a sudden collapse of air traffic control, with the quiet compromise of nuclear command and control networks, or with a silent leak of intelligence that fractures alliances and sets rival states on a collision course. The APT world is the closest humanity has ever come to invisible warfare, one where the casualties are reputations, economies, infrastructure, and national stability. APT groups adapt faster than any other form of intelligence unit in history. They shift from malware to fileless intrusions, from phishing campaigns to AI-driven social engineering, from brute force disruption to targeted manipulation of reality itself. Some groups don't even need to touch a target system anymore. They craft fake narratives, forge strategic leaks, or manipulate digital evidence to create chaos. In this age of digital trust, the greatest weapon isn't always the attack itself. It's the perception of the attack. Advanced APT units exploit this psychological dimension with chilling precision. Instead of destroying systems outright, they corrupt them. They modify data subtly, slowly eroding reliability until no one can differentiate truth from tampering. Intelligence agencies fear this possibility more than any ransomware attack or denial of service barrage. When data becomes unreliable, institutions crumble. Governments lose the ability to make informed decisions. Militaries question their intelligence feeds. Banks doubt their own records. Hospitals second-guess critical equipment diagnostics. And all the while, the attackers remain hidden, listening to every panic meeting, reading every desperate email, tracking every move the victims make in the dark. What makes these groups truly dangerous is not just their capability, it's their patience. APT operations rarely unfold in days or weeks. They unfold across years. Some intrusions begin with a single compromised device and a minor subsidiary. Others start by exploiting a forgotten service account, a neglected VPN credential, or a misconfigured cloud asset. Attackers seep in quietly, navigating through the digital veins of the organization until they reach the heart. And once they arrive, they embed themselves so deeply that even if defenders discover them, removing them becomes a monumental challenge. Every backdoor has a backup. Every exit point has a failsafe. Every compromised system has a secondary layer waiting in silence. Meanwhile, global tensions continue to rise. Nations accuse each other of cyber aggression. International institutions struggle to regulate digital warfare because the battlefield has no borders, no treaties, no universally accepted rules. Every country plays the same game while denying they are part of it. Cyber operations allow governments to push boundaries without crossing the threshold into open war. A nation can sabotage a rival's election, disrupt its infrastructure, steal its intellectual property, or humiliate its military, all while maintaining plausible deniability. And that deniability is the shield that protects APT groups from global consequences. Where nations prepare for retaliation they may never openly discuss. Some governments have already established digital red lines, warning that certain intrusions could be treated as acts of war. But how do you draw lines in a domain defined by ambiguity? An attack masked behind 10 layers of misdirection, rooted across compromised systems in countries with no involvement, executed using malware stitched together from fragments of publicly available code. Who do you blame? Who do you strike back at? Who is the enemy when the footprints always point somewhere else? That uncertainty is the greatest weapon app groups wield. They don't just break systems, they destabilize trust between nations. They create suspicions that echo through diplomatic corridors, intelligence briefings, and military councils. Leaders hesitate, unsure whether they're being manipulated. Rivals become defensive. Allies grow paranoid. APT operations can apply pressure in ways traditional espionage never could. The battleground is not land or sea. It is perception, confidence, and leverage. Meanwhile, app groups continue expanding their influence beyond governments and into private sectors. Corporations, especially those tied to defense, energy, finance, and emerging technologies, have become prime targets. Many app groups operate with a mission that goes beyond espionage to acquire intellectual property, sabotage development pipelines, or gain strategic dominance in markets that shape the future. They steal designs for advanced weaponry, aerospace systems, pharmaceuticals, semiconductor technologies, and critical research. Artificial intelligence is transforming both attack and defense capabilities. AI-powered intrusions can adapt in real time, rewriting their own code, masking their behavior, and bypassing traditional detection methods. Automated reconnaissance tools can map entire networks in seconds. Machine-generated phishing campaigns can profile targets more effectively than human operatives ever could. The next generation of APT operations may not require large teams or years of training. They might require nothing more than a small, unique programming, highly adaptive systems. This is the landscape that now defines modern geopolitics. A place where invisible armies wage silent battles, where intelligence is currency. And when that exploit is deployed, when the network is breached, when the data begins to flow out unnoticed, it won't be announced with alarms or breaking news. It will happen quietly, in the dead of night, unseen by billions of people who depend on these systems every day. And that is why understanding APT groups isn't optional. It is essential. If you've been captivated by this journey into the shadows of global cyber warfare, then trust me, you've only scratched the surface. Make sure you subscribe to Spycraft Chronicles, because the unseen world of intelligence holds countless more stories waiting to be exposed. Hit the like button, drop a comment, and share this video with someone who loves uncovering the truths. Governments hide behind digital curtains. Your support helps us explore deeper, darker corners of espionage that rarely see daylight. Stay alert, stay curious, and remember, in the world of cyber warfare, the most dangerous threat is the one you never see coming.